Hello everyone, welcome to the GrowCast Show episode 122. My name is Yu Hong and I'll be your host for today. Today in our studio, we have Grace Yeo, TEDx speaker, sales coach, and founder of Pitch Please. Let's get to the questions. So Grace, what's the fastest mindset shift that instantly makes someone sell better?
The moment you stop wanting to be liked, that's when you start to sell better. Because the thing is, when we want to be liked, we want to please someone, right? And we are so afraid to ask good questions. The moment you stop trying to be liked, your sales goes up. The reason is because when you try to be liked, you're always trying to play nice. You're not trying to ruffle some feathers. So you don't start asking good questions and you don't ask the important questions. But people don't pay for politeness. They don't pay for kindness. They actually pay for someone who's a leader, someone who they see that, hey, this person can lead me to the results that I want. So they need to see competence. They need to see that you dare to say the things that other people are afraid to admit.
So Grace, why do kind, capable people stay broke longer than those aggressive sellers?
People don't stay broke because they are bad at sales, but it's because they avoid tension. When we're trying to be nice all the time, we are afraid to ask good and important questions, to draw out real desires, real emotions, and real things that are kind of the obstacles that the clients are facing, right? So when we don't create any tension, there is no desire. There is no reason for the person in front of you to take action. So think of it like being in a relationship. Imagine you're on a first date. And if the first date goes as plain as vanilla ice cream, chances are you won't score a second date because there is no push and pull, there is no tension. And that's why it's not about being kind and being accepted. It's about being bold enough to ask good questions and lead the person in front of you to the results that they want.
What is the silent behavior that destroys trust before the client even realizes it?
If you over-explain, you're already losing the sale. The silent behavior is actually not so silent. The silent behavior that actually destroys trust is actually not so silent. It is over-explaining. Whenever we get challenged, we get some obstacles or objections from our clients, the first thing we feel is this tension rising and the need to over-explain and justify, why you're more expensive, why you're this, why you're that, why you're... there's so much feeling of anxiety and wanting to over-explain. The moment you over-explain, that's the moment when your client starts to think that you don't believe in yourself as much as they were wishing that you did.
What phrase instantly kills a high-ticket sales?
The phrases that kills a high-ticket sales are no pressure, or just let me know what you think, or take your time and feel free to ask me questions whenever you need to. All these phrases that come from being afraid to make a decision, to help your client make a decision, that just instantly kills your sales because they need you as an inspiration. They need to see that you're able to lead them. It all goes back to your leadership, to your energy. So less about what you're saying, but how you're saying it. Like you could say, hey, no pressure. If you're ready, let's do this. Or you could say, it's okay. No pressure. It's totally fine. It sends a completely different message. So you really want to be aware of the kind of energy that you're using with your words.
People say that it's all about authenticity. So why does authenticity alone not convert into money?
Being authentic doesn't mean that people feel safe buying from you. So being authentic doesn't convert into money because it only fills one part of the sales process. So this is one of the things that I teach. There is the art of sales and there's also the science of sales. Being authentic, connecting with your clients emotionally, having empathy, building rapport, that is all the art side. Right? But showing your clients that you care about them is not enough for them to say, hey, here's my money, take it, I trust you with my investments and my resources. What you also need is the science of sales. And that is you showing up as a leader, showing that you're competent, having structures, strategy, a framework. So they don't just guess what working with you is going to be like. They actually see their roadmap to success. So you need to have both. You need to have authenticity, so they like you enough to keep hearing what you have to say, but at the same time, you need to be competent and you need to show that through your work, through your strategy and your structure.
What does neuroscience say about why people actually buy?
People buy with emotions first. and then they just justify it with logic after. This is actually how our brain works. So in the very core of our brain, the neocortex part of our brain, that is the part that is responsible for a lot of decision making, the emotions, the why. And then only on the outer layer, that part is responsible for the what. So that's why Simon Sinek, one of my favorite speakers, he always talks about start with why. Right? You know that too. So we start with why because that is the part that is responsible for saying like, oh, I feel connected to this person. There's chemistry there. Like I resonate with this person. I feel like this person cares about me. So people always make decisions from that part. And then later they ask you about the features of your program or your services or your products. That is the logical part that then gets them to say, okay, yes. But actually the decision is already made before. So this is how neuroscience actually influences decision making. We often think that it is logic, like we are logical human beings and we make logical decisions. But again, that is just the outer part of our brain trying to justify the core part.
What do clients decide in the first 7 seconds of a call?
That's a great question. Whenever salespeople go into a presentation, they are so obsessed with their pitch. They're like, oh, I got to get my pitch right. I got to make sure I hit these points and don't miss these pointers. But in the first 7 seconds, clients are not actually looking out for that. They're looking out to see if they can trust you. And before that happens, they need to feel that you genuinely care about them as a human being. So if you go in there ready to go with your pitch without first trying to understand who they are, what they want, what they need, what they're looking for, you've lost the entire pitch already. So in the first 7 seconds, it's always about building rapport, getting to know who they are as a person, having them to like you and you getting curious about their lives first. And then only with that, then they like you enough to even continue to hear what else you have to say and what you can do for them.
How do you close high-ticket items without ever sounding desperate or pushy?
This is an art in itself. Previously, we mentioned the art of sales and the science of sales. The thing is, once you have mastered both, then you're able to dance between both and find a really beautiful harmony that is authentic to you. So if you don't want to sound desperate or pushy, rule number 1 in all of my sales coaching is to find your inner alignment. If one way of sales doesn't resonate with you, you should never adopt that because it's going to reflect. Sales is always energy. And if you adopt something that just doesn't sit right in your body, your client, they may not know exactly what is happening, but they will be able to feel it. So to not be desperate or pushy, you need practice. You need lots of practice and lots of different modeling of what different salespeople sound like and finding your harmony, your alignment, and your authentic way of managing a sales conversation. Because sales is all energy and that's what it really is.
What is one sales skill that itself can double someone's closing rate?
If I were to start all over and I wanted to double my closing rate today, this is the number 1 sales skill I will work on. Instead of pitching myself and being obsessed about what my presentation looked like, I will start learning the art of asking strategic questions. Because your pitch should never be all about, these are my points and this is what I want to say, this is my experience, this is what I've done, blah, 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 blah. You've lost all their attention and all their interest. In order to trigger a sale the right way and to increase your closing rate, you need to learn how to ask the right questions, strategic questions, and questions that actually allow your customers, your clients, your prospects to really reveal deep desires, deep motivation, and what they're actually looking for. So the better questions that you ask, the better answers you get. I always say this, and I'm going to repeat it. The higher quality questions you ask, the higher quality answers you get.
Why do clients say, let me think about it, even though they are very interested?
When clients say, let me think about it, even when they're interested, it usually boils down to one problem. They like you, but they don't trust you yet. They don't feel that sense of safety that when I invest this money, I'm going to see the kind of returns or the results that I was hoping for. So let me think about it doesn't mean you end the conversation and actually just let them go and think about it. It's an invitation to dig deeper, to find out, hey, what are some of the gaps that are in my prospect's mind, in my client's mind that I haven't filled yet? Because if they're thinking about something, if you're going to go away and think about it, that means there's a question that has been unanswered. So that is your opportunity to dig deeper. Never let them go just like that. You will be doing yourself and your client a disservice. So always ask questions to dig a little bit deeper.
How do we build trust before we ever mention about our offer?
Trust is built when you're able to name out loud what they're actually afraid to say, because that means that you know them maybe even slightly better than they know themselves. And when they see that you're able to notice that and also mention it out loud, they start to see you as the leader. And that is really what needs to happen in a sales conversation. You don't want to just end up being friends. You also want to be a leader so you can give the transformation that they are hoping for. So to name that inner desire or something that's holding them back, that they're afraid to say out loud, helps them feel seen, helps them feel understood. And when they feel that, they feel acknowledged, then trust is being built.
Was there a moment that forced you to realize you have to master sales if you ever wanted freedom?
That was a moment in childhood that made me realize that if I wanted freedom, I have to master sales. So my mom, she, as a single mom, raised my little sister and I, and she was working like 9 to 9 job in a departmental store in Singapore. And every month, after paying off all the debts and the bills and expenses, school fees, she would be left with $50 in her wallet, literally. And her challenge would be, how do I now feed myself and my 2 girls with $50? And she was so bold that she left her job and she took a chance in the sales industry. And from there, she really grew and pulled us out of poverty. Like, we used to live with the lights going out because we couldn't afford paying the bills. And she did so well in sales that in just 4 years, she was able to buy us a home. She was able to afford a little car for her to get around to work, pick us up from school. And everywhere she goes, she's always the number one salesperson. So a lot of my sales skills I learned from my mom. And I realized through her that if I wanted to achieve freedom, this is the number one sales skill. So I realized through her that if I wanted to achieve freedom, this is the number one skill that I need to master.
Was there a moment that made you realize that talent alone would never make you wealthy?
In this industry, I've seen so many creators, artists, service providers who are really, really good at what they do. Like, they are actually talented, and their work, their service creates a positive impact in their community and people in the world. But they are often overlooked. They are not being acknowledged, and they often stay broke as well, unfortunately. And that's not because they are not talented or they're not good at what they do, but simply because they don't know how to promote their work. They don't know how to ask for what they're worth. They don't know how to charge prices as well. And so that's why I realized that, hey, no matter how talented you are, you need to learn how to sell your services and talk in a way that inspires people so that they also want to come with you on this journey, because talent alone will not bring you there. You need to inspire people with your confidence, with your leadership, and with action.
Why did you choose to build your life around teaching people how to sell?
I started my first sales job in school. When I was 7 years old, in the back of the school bus, I would auction away Pokemon cards that my grandfather bought for me. So that was my first day at work. And over the many, many years, I've taken on so many different types of sales jobs. Like, I was in makeup stores holding giant lipsticks, walking around promoting this new product, or selling like whiskey, beer, electronic devices, services, products, anything. Like, I've dipped my hands in so many different types of sales roles. And over the past 13 years of hands-on real-world sales experience, I learned that sales is not something that we're all naturally born to have. If you're extroverted, it doesn't mean that you're better at sales. If you're introverted, it doesn't mean that you will never succeed at sales. So all these years, I've learned that sales is a learnable skill. And sales can really not only get you the freedom that you want, it impacts you and your family, but it also impacts your clients, the people that you work with. Sales is a transmission of your truth, of your service, of your energy, and of your impact, your gift that you've been given in this world. And so I really love being behind other business owners and entrepreneurs and supporting them with skills that they need to really go out and make even more of an impact. So that is why I do what I do today.
What angers you about the sales industry?
There are so many things that anger me about the sales industry. The first thing, though, is that sales is all about manipulation. It's all about pressure. The thing is, we've only been modeled one way of doing sales. And I think a lot of us are familiar here with the Wolf of Wall Street kind of way of doing sales. And because that single way, that one way of doing sales has been modeled to us over and over and over again, we start to think that there's no other way to do it. Like we have to be this like aggressive man in a suit and, speaking in such a tone and really pressuring the other person on the phone to make a decision like right now. But sales doesn't have to be this way. I truly believe that every single one of us, we are already natural salespeople. Just think about a time when you were a kid and you had to convince a friend to come for a play date, or you had to convince your mom to let you go to a sleepover. That is sales. Sales is simply about influencing. It's about negotiating and persuading, but it doesn't have to be about manipulation and pressure. So I'm on a mission to inspire people and to help them see that sales can be done in so many different ways. We don't all have to be the Wolf of Wall Street bros.
Why do so many heart-centered entrepreneurs stay underpaid?
So many heart-centered entrepreneurs and creative entrepreneurs stay underpaid because they are so generous. They are so giving. They want to give you everything. They want to share everything because they are so passionate. There's a fire that's burning within their hearts. They're like, the work that they do, they want the world to experience what they know. So they're always overgiving. But when you overgive, you become underpaid. That is just the unfortunate truth, because if people are able to access you for free, then why will they ever pay? So the thing is, being heart-centered is not the problem. Being generous is not the problem. What you need is a structure, a strategy, so that becomes your backbone. That backs you up. And the healthiest, most sustainable way for you to continue doing what you're so passionate about is to create an ecosystem so that your entire business sustains you, your clients, and everyone that you're going to impact.
Is it possible to sell without a large social media following?
Absolutely, yes. You don't need to have thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers to start selling. That is the number one misconception of the world today. Like, so many people come to me and they're like, oh, but I haven't started creating content consistently, or like, let me just wait until I go viral before I start making sales. But let me tell you, I have 5,000 followers as of right now, and I am at consistent 5-figure months. So I am just living proof that you don't need to go viral. You don't need to have thousands and tens of thousands of followers to make sales. What is important is that you turn those conversations and the current attention that you already have, the people who are already attracted to what you do, into cash. So start with your little audience first, because if you don't learn how to start small, even when you have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, you will not know how to turn that into conversion. And I have one case study for you, actually. One of my very recent clients, she is a YouTuber and very famous in Indonesia. She has almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. But during our one-on-one consultation, we noticed her sales numbers in the past couple of months was pretty much flat, almost zero, because there was no monetizing strategy. There was no structure in her business. So even if you have millions of followers, if you don't know how to sell, how to package your services and offers in such a sexy way, it wouldn't convert.
What is the first thing that you will fix for someone who is stuck at $1,000 to $3,000 a month in sales revenue?
If I were stuck at $1,000 to $3,000 a month in sales revenue, this is the one thing that I would fix. So I would really relook at my offers and see how I can create an offer suite that allows my clients to grow with me rather than outgrow me. I've worked with so many clients that are afraid to create bigger packages, higher ticket packages, because they don't feel safe collecting that sum of money. So they're just comfortable collecting that $20, $30 or $100, $200 and afraid to go to that 4, 5, or even 6-figure mark. And the thing is, you get kept there very quickly because your time gets taken up with all these little bookings and your energy gets strained very quickly, and there's not much more that you can do. So the first thing I'll look at is to look at the offer suite that you currently have and see how else you can repackage your services, the transformation, and different levels of access to you so that you can charge higher and deliver more to clients without working more.
What's one truth that salespeople don't want to hear?
The number one truth that a lot of salespeople don't want to hear, the work that they avoid doing, is this. Yeah, they avoid picking up the phone. They avoid using their voice. They avoid calling, following up. And all they want to do is avoid the work, maybe at the very most send a text message, and they never want to use their voice. The thing is, when you use your voice, you're creating connection. You are showing your client that I care enough about you to actually send you a voice note or to give you a call. And this actually helps you to stand out from a lot of the other salespeople or service providers out there, because that's the work that everybody is avoiding. And let me tell you this, one of my clients actually started sending voice notes. She really resisted it, but one day she was like, hey, you know what, Grace? I'm really not getting results, but I'm just going to try what you told me to do. So she started sending voice notes to follow up on people who opened up her email but never responded. And you know what? In 1 week, she got 3 bookings. So that's evidence that using your voice actually gets you sales.
How long did it take for you to get to 5-figure months?
Believe it or not, it took me 4 months to get to 5-figure months. So I started my business in August officially. I started with a couple of workshops in person and a couple of webinars. And in 4 months, I hit my first 5-figure month. And people ask me like, Grace, do you ever burn out from doing sales? I see that you're always so energetic. Do I have to be like you to create 5 figures in my income as well? So let's do this really simple exercise, right? Let's say that you take 50 sales calls a month. And in 50 calls, 20 people actually convert into clients. And after 20 people, every single client is paying you just $1,000. How much do you get at the end of the month?
20,000.
Exactly. So can you spend 50 hours per month, not per week, per month doing sales calls? Do you think you would burn out doing that? And the key is the better you are at doing sales calls and sales conversations, the higher your conversion rate goes. The higher your conversion rate goes, that means lesser sales calls.
That's all the questions we have for episode 122. Stay tuned for episode 123.